Today I'm bringing you a glimpse at the NDP mainstream media complex, what Ezra calls the media party. And boy, are they ever hard at work. You absolutely have to see this. In 2012, the late, great Andrew Breitbart once said, "The media class is the wall that we have to climb over in order for our voices to be heard." And that has never been truer. I said over the weekend at our very successful Rebel Live event in Calgary that to get rid of our socialist New Democrat government, we will first have to overcome the mainstream media here in Alberta. In fact, I called them the public relations and research arm of the New Democrat Party. And it took them about 4 days to prove me 100% correct. I just received a transcript of a media scrum between United Conservative leader Jason Kenney and some reporters from Wednesday in Edmonton. It starts off with the reporters asking some questions about remarks made by an inconsequential UCP member, lawyer John Carpe. The media rushed to throw up a short excerpt from Carpe's full 20-minute speech at our Rebel Live event. By the way, thanks for watching mainstream media. Now, Carpe made comments about free speech and the LGBTQ rainbow flag that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Now, you can watch the full speech at the Rebel YouTube page for context and then make your own mind up. Anyway, Carpe quickly issued a clarification, and that probably should have been it. But the media wanted to press on and make the whole United Conservative Party responsible for what one lone member had said, which is a bizarre standard that only applies to conservatives, from what I understand. But then suddenly, what should have been a regular scrum turned into mainstream media reporters trying to rewrite history, just memory hole facts we all know, Ministry of Truth style. It's been confirmed to me by a reliable source who was standing there at the scrum that the two reporters in question who end up arguing with Kenney in the transcript are Claire Clancy of the Edmonton Journal and Michelle Bellefontaine of the CBC. Clancy confirmed to me that she is reporter 2 in this transcript. Now, I reached out to Bellefontaine yesterday and she hasn't gotten back to me yet. But let's read what went down Wednesday in Edmonton. Shall we? Let's do it. Kenney. As I said, Mr. Carpe retracted and apologized for those remarks. He did not speak for the party. I condemned those remarks. I think we should have a common standard here. When the Deputy Premier refers to the majority of Albertans, and then it trails off because Kenney is making reference here to the time that Deputy Premier and Health Minister Sarah Hoffmans called Albertans sewer rats in the legislature. Anyways, here's where it gets weird with the reporters. Reporter 1, she was talking about Rebel Media. She wasn't talking about the majority. She wasn't talking about the majority conservatives. Reporter 2, that's correct. Reporter 1, I heard the remarks. Reporter 2, yeah. Reporter 1, yeah. Kenney, really? Reporter 2, yes. Reporter 1, yeah. Kenney, that's interesting because I actually read the Hansard transcript several times and the words Rebel Media don't appear in her remarks. Reporter 1, she was referring to Rebel Media. It was in the context of the remarks. Kenney, then why didn't she actually say that? Reporter 1, she said it. Kenney, you're going to stand by that, okay? You're mistaken. And in any event, if what she said was defensible, why did she retract it and apologize for it? I've got a couple of points to make here about this. The first one is that if I behaved like this to Rachel Notley, just making up things but in a press conference, my outlandish behavior would be the news cycle for the better part of a week. But these two act like this in front of a gaggle of other journalists, and no one says a word. And these two reporters, I don't know them. I don't have anything against them. I'm sure they're nice enough people in their normal lives, but they are behaving like Jim Acosta. They are arguing with Jason Kenney instead of asking him questions and then reporting what he says in an unbiased fashion. If they want to be activists, that's fine. I'm a bit of one too. I admit it. But that's not how these two present themselves, is it? They need to just be honest. And I really like how these two reporters are fine with Government Health Minister Sarah Hoffman dehumanizing Albertans as lowly sewer rats as long as that sewer rat is me and my colleagues here at The Rebel. It's actually pretty gross to think that makes what Hoffman said any better. But I'm tough and I don't take this sort of stuff personally. Here's my general rule of thumb. If strangers dehumanize you, if your political enemies dehumanize you, you know what, whatever. But when the government starts doing it, that's when you need to start paying attention. And I bet these two lady journalists even call themselves feminists. But regardless of these two reporters' tacit approval of the dehumanization of me by a government minister on the record in the legislature, they're dead wrong, and Jason Kenney is 100% correct. This is revisionist history in real time, gaslighting. Indeed, the words rebel media were never uttered from Sarah Hoffman's mouth that day in the legislature. But don't take my word for it. Watch the full exchange for yourself, including the question Hoffman was asked, so there's no misinterpretation of the context here. Just watch.
Mr. Speaker, our province has struggled for almost 2 years under the NDP reign. In that time, the Premier has told Albertans that they are our country's embarrassing cousins. She said that 100,000 families who are wrestling with unemployment and ballooning prices from the NDP's disaster of a carbon tax are simply Chicken Little, who need to, quote, make better choices. Premier, your policies are devastating Alberta families. For a government that has shown such gross incompetence, when is the Premier going to ask herself to make better choices?
Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In a tough economy, it's so important to ensure that our government continues to have the back of ordinary families. They're working to make their life better. They're creating jobs. They're cutting school fees. They're freezing tuition. The members opposite just want to keep jacking those things up. We're focused on hard hats. They're spending a lot of time with sewer rats, Mr. Speaker.
That video of that question period exchange where Sarah Hoffman absolutely calls conservative Albertans sewer rats has been seen and shared by thousands of people. And even when Hoffman was forced to apologize and retract her statement about sewer rats the very next day, she still never mentions rebel media. Again, don't take my word for it. Take Hoffman's. Just watch.
I absolutely apologized. I did it in the House on the record this morning. I think it was a little before 11 a.m. Okay. And certainly when I spent many years in public education, I encouraged students to use their words with caution and choose them wisely, and I failed to do so. So I apologize to the members of the Assembly and also to anyone else who was offended by those remarks.
For a journalist to say that Hoffman said or meant something other than what we can all see there with our own lying eyes is a complete and total abdication of their responsibility as allegedly unbiased journalists. Let me be perfectly clear. It's okay to be a biased journalist. I'm a conservative. I admit it. What's not okay is hiding one's bias even though it seeps into every single story. Really? It's insulting to the reader or the viewer to think that they aren't picking it up in every single story. But I'm glad these two did it. I'm glad these two tried to rewrite recent history on behalf of the NDP. I'm glad because I hope this might be the thing that wakes up our official conservative types to what's really going on here. This little microcosm of what I'm sure goes on every day in the mainstream media all across North America also exposes the folly of many mainstream right-leaning politicians. Belligerent badgering from these two revisionist historians passing off as reporters reveals the flaw in the consensus thinking of conservatives like Jason Kenney and Andrew Scheer, that by entering into some sort of peace treaty with the mainstream media, and as a condition of that peace treaty refusing to talk to the competition, us here at the Rebel, that the mainstream media will spare them from being called all the names the mainstream media calls us and all the other conservatives who don't lay down their arms. These official conservatives think that if they disavow us here at the Rebel, Wendy Mesley or Michelle Belle-Fontaine or Claire Clancy will no longer call them extremists, alt-right, bigoted, or homophobes, or that Bob Fife won't lurk in the bushes from across the street and consider the pleasantries I exchange with a former colleague to be some sort of national scandal. We just saw in practice this isn't true. What conservatives like Jason Kenney and Andrew Scheer, and really all conservatives, need to realize is that they aren't in some sort of peace treaty with the media. Instead, they are entered into a disarmament pact where only the conservatives disarm. It's a war between conservatives and the mainstream media. The media wants Jason Kenney dead in the water, like they want the Rebel dead too. They're obsessed with us. And no amount of disavowing your allies will curry you favor or reprieve from the enemy. And it's time conservative politicians in Canada start acting like it. That will be the only way for them to win. Donald Trump figured out the lay of the battlefield pretty early on. And I think Doug Ford did too. Bernier has it right also. The media is indeed the wall we have to climb over to be heard, not the way politicians talk to the public. This has been a rare moment of clarity and honesty in a mainstream media that is so seldomly clear or honest, isn't it? They just revealed themselves for what they really are, left-wing partisans. Again, which is fine, just admit it. Besides showing the world exactly who and what they are, I'm glad for another reason too, because as long as there are journalists like Claire Clancy and Michelle Belle-Fontaine pretending to be unbiased, there will always be work for journalists like me to do, to tell you the other side of the story. So thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Claire. Thank you for the job security. Keep it up. You're never, ever going to be rid of me at this rate. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. You just can't trust the mainstream media, can you? Especially when it comes to telling you the important truths. And that's why the Rebel is sending me to the UN Climate Change Conference for the third year in a row, this time in Poland in December. To help cover the cost of my trip there, go to rebelun.com.